if you have. No? Okay. So there are certain ground rules that go with this. And by the way, if somebody needs to mic me, you can. I see somebody's got a lavalier there. So there are certain rules that we have, okay, which I'm bound by federal law to do. Okay, one, if you ask me what happened, you're going to get dead air. And everybody knows what dead air is, right? Okay, which means I stop talking at that point because I'm barred by federal law from talking about probable cause while we're on scene. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to tell you how the process works. All right. We'll go through some specifics. We'll tell you up to now what we found. All right. And we'll also give you contact information for our media affairs duty officer. So if you don't have it, it's 202-314-6100. This will be the only press briefing that we're doing as part of this accident. So once I leave here, if you have any further questions, all right, feel free to reach out to them. And what will happen is I'm going to go ahead and make a statement. We're going to tell you about where we're at with the investigation, what the process is, like I said, all right, and then afterwards I'll have time for some questions. Once I complete that portion, then these gentlemen are going to take over just in case you have questions about things like the response, what they're doing now, etc. Okay? Anybody got any questions? Start off with. Let me know when you're ready. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Gunther. I'm an investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board with the United States federal government. The NTSB is an independent investigative agency tasked by Congress to investigate the facts, conditions, and circumstances around all U.S. registered civil aircraft in the United States, U.S. registered civil aircraft, and U.S. manufactured aircraft overseas under what's known as the International Civil Aviation Organization, Annex 13. Now, the reason I'm here, and first of all, I would like to go ahead and offer my condolences to the friends and family of the victims of this tragic accident. I would also like to go ahead and thank the Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol, okay, other emergency responders, including the fire department and the township and the community in general who have been so generous in reaching out their help to us. What we know so far is that just prior to 1945, on the 5th, a November 519 Echo Alpha, which is an Express 2000 FT, which is an aircraft that is licensed in the experimental category, it's what we call an experimental home built, all right, ended up coming to rest just past the field inside a wood line, a little less than a mile from here. The airplane is made out of composite material, okay, it's fiberglass, it's built from a kit, okay, and it's powered by a Continental IO 550 six-cylinder horizontally opposed engine that puts out about 300 horsepower. Now, what we know so far is that the aircraft hit in a nose-low attitude, and it appears that at the time that it impacted, that the aircraft might have been spinning to the right. We looked at the brakes in the trees above the aircraft accident site, and it appears that it only struck one tree limb prior to coming to rest. So it's nose down, it was spinning, and it appears that we have all four corners of the aircraft. And what that means is that we've looked at the wreckage that's there, and it appears that we have the tips of both wings, we have the tips of the horizontal stabilizer, we also have the nose section, and we also have the tail section. Now, one of the things that we've been doing while we've been on site so far is we're checking for what we call control continuity. And what control continuity is, we try to make a determination from the continuity of the flight controls to the cockpit on the aircraft. And what we know is that both ailerons are on the airplane wings. The horizontal stabilizer is also in place, along with the elevator and the rudder. And what the ailerons do is they control the aircraft in roll, the elevator controls the aircraft in pitch, and the rudders, which are operated by foot pedals, control the airplane in yaw. So that's all three axes on there. We've looked at the wreckage. There's no sign of any type of in-flight structural failure, fire, or explosion. We do not have any evidence of a post-impact fire on scene, and we do know that the aircraft did have fuel on it. As a matter of fact, one of the things that, as you approach it, if you've been anywhere near the wreckage site, you'll notice that you can smell aviation gasoline as you approach. Unfortunately, the gentleman that was on board is deceased. We don't have any evidence of any passengers being on board, even though it was a 4-seat aircraft. It appears that he was alone at the time. We've looked at the wings, and even though we have a smell of fuel on board, both fuel tank caps are in place, which indicates to us that the tanks may have ruptured on impact. We located the emergency locator transmitter on the airplane, and the ELT, as far as we know, after talking to the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, no ELT was received by any ground station or by satellite. So, getting to the facts, conditions, and circumstances surrounding the accident, we're going to be looking at another number of items. One, we're going to be looking at the weather conditions at the time. As you know, it was rainy that day, so we do have meteorologists from our staff at our headquarters currently that are looking at the weather conditions at the time of the accident. We're looking at the systems on the airplane. One of the other things that we've done is we've been pulling the avionics systems out of the wreckage, and we're going to go ahead and retain those with the wreckage so that way we can go ahead and study them to determine whether or not there's any non-volatile memory on board. And what non-volatile memory means is that's the ability that once power is removed from the aircraft, the memory in those systems remains, and that way, if, depending on condition of those components, we can download them. And that will also give us performance information as to what the aircraft was doing. We also are sitting there and we're currently looking at air traffic control data, which includes both voice, radar, and what's known as ADS-B, which is Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. And what ADS-B does is it interrogates the aircraft, and by doing that, it determines what its position is in time and space. Now, what will happen also is part of this investigation, we'll be doing stuff like looking at the pilot's records. We'll be looking at the maintenance records on the aircraft, and we'll also be looking at the pilot's flight physiology. In other words, what his medical certification was, okay, and what his physical condition was at the time of the accident. In addition to that, we'll be doing a number of other things in the background also, such as we'll be looking up registration information, we'll be looking up airworthiness information that's currently stored by the Federal Aviation Administration in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We're also looking at flight path reconstruction right now to determine 3D what the flight path reconstruction was after he left Lakefront Airport to here, and we're also making a determination as to what his final destination may have been. Now, one of the other things that we're also looking at while we're doing that is we're looking at survival factors such as the restraint systems in the aircraft, okay, how the structure reacted also to impact. Now, once I leave this location, okay, in approximately 30 days, the NTSB will go ahead and develop and produce a preliminary report. And that preliminary report will have the facts, conditions, and circumstances as we know it up to this point, okay, and it is publicly available on our website at www.ntsb.gov. Now, the NTSB operates under what's known as a Sunshine Act. And what the Sunshine Act means is that we can't hide anything as part of an investigation. It has to be produced publicly. And those reports, once we complete that preliminary report, more work will be done over approximately the next 18-month period. And at the end of the 18-month period, the NTSB will go ahead and produce a factual report, which it lets us know what the facts are that occurred with the accident at that point, and then we will produce a final report. Associated with that final report will be a docket that includes photos, any research, graphs, charts, etc. that support that investigation. Then approximately 60 to 90 days after that report is published, the Safety Board, which are the 5 members that are appointed by the President of the United States, will issue a statement of probable cause. Now, at any time during the investigation, if we find anything that's of concern to us for either the traveling public, the pilots, the aircraft, air traffic control, passengers, etc., that's of concern and could be a safety issue, we can issue recommendations at any time. And with that, I have time for a few questions.
Can you talk about any extra challenges that investigating a crash with a home-built aircraft brings?
Regardless of the category that the airplane is licensed under, or whether it's a helicopter, balloon, blimp, powered lift, whatever it happens to be, there's a set of regulations, there's a set of engineering design requirements, etc. And even though a experimental aircraft's in the experimental category, kit-built aircraft are actually, there are many produced. As a matter of fact, it's a very vibrant, active segment of the aviation industry. So no, it's every aircraft has different, I wouldn't call them challenges, but has different design specifications and how they were designed. They're built to a standard. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why the NTSB leverages industry so highly, is because regardless of the fact that we have our own engineers, own investigators, doctors, etc., one of the things that happens is because there are so many thousands of components that are built and so many hundreds and hundreds of aircraft of different design that's built, it's impossible for us to be experts on every single one. So therefore, one of the things we do is we leverage the manufacturers, such as airframe manufacturers and engine manufacturers.
How large of a team do you have on the ground now investigating this between you guys and the FAA?
So we have myself, we have 2 individuals from the FAA. We also have the agencies that are standing behind us, okay, along with the coroner.
You said something about the reports. There was no radio. There was no maybe calls. No cries of saying I'm going down or.
Yeah, preliminary information that we've gotten from air traffic control is that they had a conversation with him before this occurred, and that's something we're looking into, is we're trying to get the official documentation from that, because we don't do supposition. So there's nothing that I could really say about that right now, other than we know that they did have contact with air traffic control, and air traffic control was in communication with the pilot prior to the accident.
That 30-day report, will that have that communication in there? What I'm trying to ascertain is that he was saying that he was having mechanical errors or mechanical.
Yes, it will be. That will be in the preliminary report.
You said he left from Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland,
Correct.
but not sure the destination yet.
Not sure the destination.
What happens once you pull the wreckage out?
Okay, so what will happen is that we'll be retaining the wreckage as part of the investigation. It will go to a secure facility, and we'll be under NTSB control, because it is considered to be evidence. And once we have garnered all the information and data that we can from the wreckage, it'll then be released.
How is the wreckage being pulled out?
Okay, so what will happen is that there's an aircraft salvage company that will be arriving here today, all right, and they're going to be using a tracked vehicle. And the reason that we're using the tracked vehicle is we're going to go ahead and try to do as little damage as possible in order to be able to get it out of the woods. And that tracked vehicle will end up separating and segmenting portions of the wreckage. That tracked vehicle will then take it out of that location, move it across the field over to the road, and then it'll be put on a flatbed truck and will be transported.
Can you reiterate the manner in which the plane actually landed? So you said it was nose down, possibly turning to the right.
Yeah, it appears right now, and this is preliminary information, so it is subject to change as we garner more. It appears that it was about 10 to 15 degrees nose down, okay, and that the aircraft was rotating about its vertical axis to the right at the time.
And 10 to 15 degrees, does that mean this direction from flat?
Yeah, so it would be about 10 to 15
Got
degrees,
it.
about the angle on my hand.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, and I've got time for one more question, and I got to get back to work.
With the experimental style of this aircraft, is there a level at which the wind will start to affect it and make it like you really shouldn't be flying in this?
All aircraft have wind limitations, even experimental aircraft. So I don't know what that wind limitation is right now. Okay. All right. Once again, 202-314-6100 if you have any further questions. And I've got to get back to work, and thank you.
Okay. Who's next?
It's up to you if you want more or not.
I was just going to ask the time of call.
The time of call was for us was at 1942, which would be 7:42 p.m. That's when we received a call of a report of a possible aircraft down.
Was any of the aviation able to help you locate it, or was it located by individuals?
They attempted to help us, but mostly individuals is what helped us locate it.
Is that the first crash that you guys had in Polk?
The first aircraft crash that I recall in Polk.
And I assume contacts them with the family and everything and all that.
That would be.
Yes, it has.
I have a question for the lieutenant. Lieutenant, I know the highway patrol takes over all aviation accidents and so other ones there. You guys do get the end results. Do you issue any kind of press thing later once you get all the results?
Right. With the NTSB being here and their expertise in this area, that would be a question for them, but they would be the authority on the subject since they've arrived.
And does like the EPA come in now and look at the site?
So our EMA director was contacted and those notifications have been made.
Do they have to come out here then?
That would be something I'd have to direct you to have them address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Have a good day,
it.
guys.
You too. Huh?
Did they tell you what your name is?
I'm leaving on your call.
Facebook stopped paying for the video.
Hush, hush, hush.
Well, I couldn't hear anything. Could you fix the volume?